Hello there, it's Austin. So towards the end of the year, when it starts to get a bit colder, I kind of entertain brewing some heavier, darker, and more characterful beers and not just brewing 6 different types of lager. So today we'll be brewing and talking about a Belgian Dubbel, which is a beer I pronounced incorrectly for most of my life. So let's get started. I'll start the recipe today by collecting just around 4.6 or so gallons of reverse osmosis water and then immediately undoing all the hard work my filters did by adding in the following amounts of Epsom salt, calcium chloride, and gypsum. The ratio of these brewing salts should help balance the maltiness in this batch without being too dry. I don't really know a ton about Belgians, but I read somewhere that that's kind of what you want. The fermentables in this batch is a majority Pilsner malt with a touch of Munich II and a splash of Special B, which is not a breakfast cereal, it's a specialty malt. This will add just a hint of raisin character, which should complement the caramel that we're getting from both the malt, as well as the dark Candi sugar, which we'll be adding a little bit later during the boil. With all of our malts mashed together at 150 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll let it sit for around an hour or an hour and 5 minutes before it's time to remove our grains and let them drain back down into the kettle. While our kettle is rising to boil temperature, I'll rinse the wort back through the grain basket again to kind of help rescue any residual sugars. The hops that we'll be adding to this batch is a 60-minute edition of Hallertau Magnum. Just bittering here, we're not looking for aroma or flavor or anything, just bittering. Speaking of bitter, with 5 minutes left in the boil, it's time to dissolve our Belgian Candi sugar and add it to the batch. This Candi sugar adds another layer of complexity to that caramel flavor that was already contributed by the malts, and also contributes to that reddish-brown hue that you expect out of a Belgian. With everything finished up, it's time to transfer the finished wort from the kettle to the fermenter. I'm using a conical stainless fermenter, and the yeast I'll be using today is Saf Ale T58. It's a specialty ale strain that contributes a nice amount of esters, clove, banana flavors, all that good stuff. The original gravity right out of the kettle was reading 1064, and the final gravity after fermentation ended up being about 1012, so a 7% batch. I'll be fermenting for 10 days at room temperature, 70 degrees. Had to use a heating pad because it gets a little cold in the corner of my brew room this time of year. After active fermentation had concluded and I had recorded 2 consecutive days with consistent final gravities, it was time to transfer the beer over to the keg and let it sit for a couple weeks under serving pressure to get to a nice level of carbonation. The end result was what I would consider a nicely rounded Belgian Dubbel on the lower end of the ABV side, with a pretty good balanced malty flavor with not too many esters or banana clove flavors. Definitely enough to be noticeable and definitely enough to be in style, but overall pretty tasty. It's funny when you say a 7% beer is lower on the ABV end of a certain style, but with Belgian Dubbels, this is certainly the case. In fact, mostly because of personal preference, I decided to make this Dubbel on the lower end of the ABV, color, and flavor scale. A lot of times the estery, clove, and banana flavors that Belgian yeast are so well known for can be a little bit off-putting for some people, myself included. But this version ended up being pretty subtle, and I'm really enjoying it. Definitely not something I'd try to make work during summertime when it's super hot out, but I mean, people don't say that about winter coats, so seasons can make a beer too. Anyways, cheers! I can just roll back and get more beer. It's a big benefit of sitting over here.